We had an election, or at least a nomination, in the Republican conference in November, and there were no other candidates.
MAGA is divided about a couple of things. Among them is Speaker Mike Johnson. Should he be the Speaker of the House? That's going to be the whole theme of this show. Make sure you leave a comment below. Just say yes, Speaker Mike Johnson, or no, Speaker Mike Johnson. Personally, I'm a yes. But I know there's a lot of division, a lot of people that just do not want that guy in office. We'll get into the specifics of it and what it means, how it could threaten Trump's actual presidency if either he's not seated as Speaker of the House or someone else isn't seated as Speaker of the House. Because right now, there isn't a list of names. Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug TenNapel. This is where the happy patriots are. This is where we hang out every day. And I give you guys the information, just the news you really need to know. We cut out all the frabba-jabba and all the gossip.
Ship up in the air as the new year looms, and the battle could lead to a delay in certifying Donald Trump's election win. As of now, Johnson can only afford to lose one GOP vote when the new Congress starts next Friday. Joining us now with some Capitol Hill insight is GOP Congressman from my home district, by the way, back in Texas. Pat Fallon joins us now.
I think Mike will remain Speaker, and I'll tell you why. We had an election, or at least a nomination, in the Republican conference in November, and there were no other candidates.
There were no other candidates because no one wants the Speaker of the House position. It's a lunatic job. Everyone hates it. It's terrible. All Mike Johnson has gotten is heat and drama from everyone for having taken that job. And before him, remember how much everyone threw hate at Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy is one of the few guys that ever actually wanted the job. And remember, anyone can be nominated. We'll get into who could also be nominated for that position. But right now, Mike Johnson is the only one who took the job. There aren't other people going, hey, pick me, pick me. We only hear some people complaining about Mike Johnson himself. And that's all over that CR, the continued resolution bill, where he goes in with 1,500 pages of pork and drops it on everyone's desk and says, we're going to vote on this in 24 hours to keep the government open. They weren't able to read it. And then when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy finally did post this entire document on X and on the internet, people to read it, we were horrified because it was full of a bunch of pork. They had to throw a bunch of leftist Democrat pork in to gain their votes. That's the game of how this works, and it needs to stop.
We've started a movement called Conservatives for Johnson because we think he's been an outstanding speaker under incredibly tough situation with a very razor-thin majority. I think he has been superb, actually. And this idea of trying to get rid of him, I think, would cause chaos. As you said, just at a time when we've got a full plate agenda we've got to get running with. And so we will.
Among the chaoses it could create is you need a Speaker of the House voted on, endorsed, okayed on January 3rd for him to certify the results on January 6th. And if you don't have him, it could cause a delay in that certification for Trump to get into office by January 20th. Now, that is not going to happen. And that's because I don't believe Mike Johnson is going to get replaced. Neither does this guy, Pat from Texas, congressman. I don't get the deal. I understand the drama that everyone's angry at what he did on the CR bill. He needs to make a public statement that he won't pull that on us ever again, that from now on, full transparency. He went in a back room and wrote that thing with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. So that is not going to be the way it's done anymore. That's the old way it was done in a smoky room. And now it's going to be transparent, where we can weigh in page by page as they create it.
The entire conference voted with, not with most votes, with all the votes for Mike Johnson. So I do believe that we're people of our word, and we will follow through. I mean, Mike's got a great relationship with President Trump. They went to a UFC fight together. Can you imagine Paul Boehner or Paul Ryan doing that? And Mike's got a very tough job with such a narrow margin. So I do think that we might have to go through, but a little bit of, iron out the wrinkles, if you will. But I do eventually think that we will get there. We don't want to delay the certification because I don't want to see Joe Biden be president constitutionally any longer than necessary.
I did personally, to your point, I did see him at a UFC fight with Donald Trump. I actually saw him myself as well at Army Navy with Donald Trump, and I also saw him at the New York City Madison Square Garden rally with Donald Trump. That relationship has been strong, it appears. There has been a little bit of concern recently with the CR. Here's the question for you. You said there weren't any candidates in the past to challenge him. Do you expect any in the future? We haven't had much luck here today coming up with names of anybody that would challenge Johnson. Do you know of anybody that would challenge Johnson?
No, he doesn't. No one wants that job. No one's putting their name up there. Remember last time when Kevin McCarthy was vacated and they could pick anyone, crazy names like Byron Donalds, Jim Jordan was put up, which I liked all those guys. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene put up that Donald Trump should be Speaker of the House. Remember that? And Mike Johnson ended up being the only one that got all of the votes united behind him. Right now, he can only lose a couple of votes because the Democrats are completely united with their 212 votes. And Republicans are all over the place. We may have more members, but we're not as united. So that means the Democrats technically have the majority. Don't tell the Democrats because they'll use it against us. But even back then, I mean, anyone can vacate this job. No one wants the job. There's no other name brought up, and we would have heard of it by now if someone was vying to be the Speaker of the House. But I just heard this week, Thomas Massie said from Kentucky, Republican, hardcore conservative, said he would not vote for Mike Johnson. So that's already one. You can only lose maybe two more depending on how united we are. So that creates drama. I think it's a terrible position to be in. We can't jack around with this stuff. Can we just get Trump in office, guys? Can we hold it together for a little bit longer? Can we not have the whole ship fall apart before Trump spends one day in office? That means unity. That means getting along with people you do not like in the party. People who have different values than you. That's being an adult.
No, and that's just it. I mean, we're a week away and there's been no names whatsoever. And it's very difficult to get to 218 when you only have 219 Republicans. So now what may happen is you might see some people, make a little noise and then maybe white light it, which is voting present, which that lowers the threshold slightly. And that could happen. But I do think come January 3rd, at some point in that day, hopefully right away, Michael be elected Speaker.
So that's January 3rd. I'm giving you guys the warning shot now. That's the next coming drama next week. We're going to be getting in the January 3rd territory very soon. Mike Johnson, I hope he gets through on the first vote, but I don't know, guys. It's going to be huge drama. There's a lot of people that want his head, and that includes conservative Republicans who are in MAGA who disagree with me. What do you think? Mike Johnson, yes? Mike Johnson, no. And we don't do any bullying in the chat, guys, so let everyone have their voice, because I want to hear what you think. I want to hear how popular or unpopular Mike Johnson is with my audience. I'm Doug in Exile.